Hi everyone! Welcome to episode 3 of Jesse Interviews Game Devs. And today, well, game developers, I'm here with Chloe. Do you want to say hi?
Hello.
And do you want to introduce yourself? Because I know you because we go back a long, long time.
Oh,
Because
a long time, don't we? Yeah. So I'm Chloe. I've done game design specifically for, oh God, 10 plus years now, I think. I'd have to check.
it
Um,
has to
but
be that
starting from
because we went to
it's
uni
gotta be.
together.
So thinking about it, it's definitely that long because we realized a couple months ago that it had been 10 years since we released our first project as a small team that we initially started out of university. So yeah, at least probably more like 11 now, which is terrifying. But yeah, I've been all over the place, done things from VR dev to more traditional dev, um, dabbled in production processes and know enough code to get by. So yeah, I'm relatively flexible, but I typically call myself a designer.
Okay, so are you more of a level designer or a gameplay designer?
Definitely more of a gameplay designer. Like I can do if it's if I'm doing level design, it better be like arena level design, like very singular circular spaces where you're trying to get people to re-encounter each other over and over again. If you want me to do a linear experience, I just don't click with it all that well, which is a shame because it's more commonly needed, especially with the death of arena shooters in the past, what, 5 years or so. And maybe we'll get a resurgence at some point, but it's not coming anytime soon, I don't think. But that's where my skills came from, actually. I made maps in Halo when I before kept going to university. It was part of my portfolio. So I've got lots of experience in that sort of centralized level design space, but not in the sort of lengthened, linearized level design space. So I prefer systems. I prefer right now I'm very interested in systemic and systematic design processes and how we can get sequences of events to just occur out of player actions. So that's a long answer to a very simple question. Apologies.
Oh no, I trust me. When is anything in games ever simple? Because
That's true. Yeah.
it's like I said, you because we kind of both do the same thing. Where
Hmm.
I'm classify myself as more of a gameplay generalist. Well, a
Mhm,
games
mhm.
generalist because I can do animation, 3D modeling at a push, coding, design. Pretty much just chuck me at a problem. I can
I think
solve it.
modeling is the only thing I wouldn't be confident in, honestly. I can also do, as we might get onto later, I can also do some animation bits and pieces. It's given me a good framework of the stuff I'm doing at the moment. But yeah, generalist is probably a good descriptor of me, but I don't know, something about it just I just cling to that designer label because it just feels more honest and more accurate to what I where I bring my skills the most, I think.
Yeah, because if you do more design than animation or anything like that, you generally go. It's okay. It's one of those things where it's always good to specialize in one thing instead of being a jack of all
Yeah,
trades. Because
yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, the industry doesn't like jack of all trades.
No, it doesn't. It really does want especially with scaling up into bigger teams, it becomes almost a liability to them to have someone who can do multiple jobs. Whereas in the smaller indie spaces, it's a lot more useful still. So it can be there are spaces, but it's harder work. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
it's great if you're on the let's say prototype team where they don't want to be pulling people from. Great to have
yeah.
a generalist on a prototype team, but not a full team because I'm not gonna lie, there's bits where you code something and only you know, but if you handed it off to a programmer, it's just like,
Yeah.
what did
So
this
what I say
person
is I
do?
can write code. You should check it afterwards. It's generally my go-to.
I'm not gonna lie, what I do is when I write my code, it's write it, it's working great, but there's this bug.
Hmm.
ChatGTP.
Yeah,
The
that's a
thing
whole
is,
topic.
yeah, the thing is, I'm not using it to produce generative. I'm using it to check where the glitch is coming from, or if there's any. I
It's
use
like
it more as
kind
an
of almost.
assistant. I use it as an assistant than anything else. I don't use it to generate any assets. It's
Mm.
just there for.
It is. It's an interesting distinction. Like, again, this is probably something I could talk in depth on, like, for a while, because it's such an interesting question to me of where do we draw the line at what that is? Because it's all functionally, it's all stuff that has been taken to train a model on. But 90% of the way that I've seen programmers work is Google it and copy paste anyway. So I don't know, it's one of the spaces that feels like it doesn't make as much of a difference.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it's not. Since what we're both, I'm trained more in Unity. I am using
Mm,
Godot. That's an
mhm,
entire topic later.
mm.
uh, I know how to use C sharp. I can. One thing I love about Unity, there's only about 20 different commands you need to fully understand.
Yeah, that'll you can get most of the game done if you just understand how the transform component works.
Yeah, transform or how to do collision, enter, exit, stay. You'd be
Yeah.
amazed how much of the code I've built is void collision enter, void collision stay, bracket, this if has this tag, blah blah blah, do this.
Yeah, yeah.
It is amazing
That's
how
the
much it
of the
if
game.
statements.
Yeah, I try. I'm trying to get better at sort of just going off into one massive script of this. But that's just because I like have lived with a programmer for the past 10 years. Um, so get bullied into slightly better practices every so often.
Hmm.
It depends.
So, what have you been working on any new projects recently, or have you been mostly focusing on anything else?
So I've been in between bits, really. I'm looking at starting a new thing with some folks soon. Hopefully in the long run that will wind up actually paying out. We don't know yet. It does depend on a lot of options. But basically I've got a friend who's trying to do something and I have expertise that they want involved and they're a good enough friend that I'm like, yeah, I can do that for free. Um, but in the meantime, I'm also working on my own tech for effectively VTubing that takes simple 2D art assets and animates them using Unity system, a Unity rigging structure that I put together. And that is primarily just because one of my partners was trying something out, and I was like, this software doesn't give me the flexibility that I want to make this character do the things that I want to see. And I know I could do this better in Unity because I have all the years of experience in Unity that I have. I just built it in a day and was like, this is already better. It's been a few months of slow incremental changes, but it's becoming more and more featureful. And the hope is I can genericize it in the long term so that it can be used for making other people's characters quite easily. We have a long-term pie in the sky idea of running a D&D campaign where everyone has their own character that they can puppet during the session so that it can be just this nice extra level of interaction with for the player as well as the audience watching, ideally in the long run. But we'll see how that plays out. That's a bigger sort of question mark at the moment. It's something that's earlier than planning stages. So we'll have to see how it shakes out.
Oh, so it's trying to build something, because I think I know the other program you mentioned.
Oh,
Is it?
there's so many out there. The one I was, you guess first because I want to know which one you think it was.
Wait a sec. Give me a sec. I need to open up Steam because I still have it installed because I do occasionally VTube when I don't want to be on. Is it
Something to have a
VTube?
face for having a face.
Yeah. Is it VTube Studios?
Mm, no, it's not actually. I think I've
Okay.
looked at that one. But no, sorry, I'm moving around a bunch. Give me 2 seconds. The one that I was using was Honk, which is like a really simple, like just give it some art assets that are like two-dimensional, and it'll it'll bob the character up and down. It can do some basic blinking if you've got it separated out correctly. It's like a really simple layer system,
Okay.
but
I've not heard of
there were
Honk.
other bits of complexity that I wanted to start building into it, and I was just like, this software doesn't quite give me the edge that I need. So the project I've got currently is called Better Honk, which I don't mean
Lovely.
to be derivative. I think what the software does is great for
Yeah.
what it is, but I just wanted those extra bits that I knew I could build. So I did.
Yeah. I would say probably don't call it Better Honk because that's just gonna
In the long
get you
term,
into
it probably won't be
trouble.
called that. But yeah, it was what started the process, and no like qualms against it. Like I say, the software is perfect for the basic user. That's what it needs to be. But when you've got the history I've got of like knowing what I could do within something else, I was just like, I can make this do more things for me. So I did.
So it's good to have the game development knowledge so you can transfer that. Because so what you are
Yeah.
saying is there's a lot of transferable qualities.
Oh yeah, loads. I mean, it's just understanding how Unity's sprite systems work, how Unity's hierarchy systems work, allow me to do so much more fluid motion, so much more like I've literally got it rigged up like a I almost call it like a pushpin puppet. Like I don't know if you've ever done those where you've got like little push pins that you put into the exact joints on a printed out like character, and it
Yeah,
just gives you all those limbs to move around. It's
many,
functionally,
many
but
moons ago, I remember those as a
yes,
child.
a long time ago. That's what sort of I thought of. It's the best analog I found to describe it, and um, yeah, that alone gives so much more than a lot of other simpler software does. So we can do arm movements. We can do in one of the characters. They're a beholder. So they've got these eye stalks all over the place, and that they can be moved independently, and it just gives us so much more range of expression.
Okay, that sounds a very interesting project. I'd love to see it. Do you have any examples of it at the moment you could show? Or
I have it literally running in the background. I could switch my camera over to it if you want to actually show it off.
yeah, if you want.
Um, I don't know how this would be for only audio listeners, but I have to see. Give me 2 seconds to make sure it actually. I'll put it on the background that actually has a background. Let's see what I can do. Oh, and before I hit play, here's my Unity knowledge coming in handy again. Before I hit the play button, I'll go and change some settings. There we go.
Oh, trust me, how many times I've run a Unity project forgetting it's just booted the project up after me getting very frustrated with a piece of code not working, closing it all
Oh,
down, and the code not being fixed or put back to a viable hit play. Cannot run. Recompile code. You
yeah,
worked yesterday,
it's
then you just think, oh yes, I didn't fix that glitch.
the habit becomes quite ingrained after a few years of making the same mistake over and over again.
Mm.
It is trying its best at running, so we give it a moment. It's there's a reason in one of the old Unity test scenes there was a pub called the Green Bar. Um, we keep waiting for Unity to load for eternity, as far as I can tell. Right, so she's moving on that end. She's just not rendering on this end, so that's a frustration.
Oh, trust me, at the
Right.
moment I'm using for my one of the projects I'm working for, I've got a pre-built from Cinti, which I've used as a
Oh.
prototype area.
Hmm.
Because when I was building the game, I was building in Starbucks.
Ah. That happens surprisingly often, I found.
Yeah, the thing is, it's just like, I need a pre-built scene, I need some assets. I've got hold of maybe 20 to 40, 30 to 40 Cinti assets at the moment because of, I'm not going to lie, Humble Bundle.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That's where I get a
Humble
lot of stuff from.
and Humble Bundle's got a new Cinti offer on at the moment as well, which is great because It's got a pack in with something I needed in.
Ah,
I bought the pack for because it had the builder's asset. In the builder's asset, it has one file, a crowbar.
ah.
I'm not joking.
So I've got that behaving now. I'm actually what I can do with it is I just run it to an OBS virtual camera, so I should just be able to. There we go.
Ah,
So you should be able to
nice.
see it. Like she's quite simple, straightforward as a character design. She's intentionally provocative because
Hmm.
she's a VTuber, and if you're not doing that, then you're not doing it right.
There's
Um,
there is burnt peanut.
mm, mm. Um,
Yeah, I'm not going
gonna
to bring up
pop
the streamers awards because that's a.
that was a whole thing I saw.
Hmm.
I'm separate enough from it still that I don't fully like I know it was not a great move, but at the same time, like that's kind of how it goes sometimes. It's certainly a long way off of like Iron Mouse, for example, who I think really
Yeah.
has frequently just like shown how good she is to both her community and to that space as a whole. Anyway, right, I need to be in the window. So I built this system so that it can be puppeted with an Xbox controller for now as well, like just because I wanted something simple and fast. But this is all just built out of Unity hierarchy pieces. She can lean around, she can look around, she can change facial expressions. And this is all stuff that I could only do because of the experience that I've got so far building proper like game assets. It functionally works the same way. Um, and yeah, it's just something that has been really fun to work on. Um, and this was the first one I built. This is the goblin that I use when I'm streaming. Um, but I also have, because this is the one that I work on for other people. Actually, this is a different Chrome, so this is going to be fun. I may have to rapidly degreen something. Yeah, you see, you get a big stripe. I'll fix that.
I know there's a program
Um,
called Sprout, which
Sprout. I don't think I've heard of that one.
um let's see if
Here we
I
go.
show it. Yeah, it's called
But yeah, this one.
Sprout Filter.
Sorry, you
It
go.
Sprout Filter basically, whenever you bring anything with a green screen in, it strips it. It also runs a lot lighter. It might be something to worth looking into.
Hmm. Yeah, it definitely will, because one of the issues we've got is like I see it, like you may have briefly seen, that this one's on a green background, the other one's on a magenta background. If I ever want them to interact in the same space, I'm gonna have to figure something out. Because
Hmm.
I, in my infinite wisdom, had my character design use basically every potential color all at once, which makes chroma keying her out a right pain. This one's much more sensibly designed because when Dawn was creating this character, she was much smarter about it.
Hmm.
But yeah, she's also a lot more of a sort of developed character in the sense of like what she can do. As you can also see, we've got the eye stalks, which I just recently got blinking like randomly out of sequence, so that they just sort of have a bit more life to themselves as well. Excuse me. And she's also got facial expressions and emotions that she can swap to really easily, and a few different poses because it's nice to be able to move things around really simply while interacting with people. And this is where we get into the sort of push pin stuff as well. Like this arm movement is just because there's a simple joint here and a simple joint here, which actually do if I do this to see if I can get her in view.
It's like the old anime way they used to do it, isn't it? Do you
Yeah,
remember
it's very similar. Yeah, sort of.
Flash games where you pinpoint? You have like a
Yeah,
hierarchy tree, and you just pin something to a point, then you just rotate it.
yeah. That's literally exactly what it is. You know what? Because this isn't working, I'm going to switch to this scene and see if this. Oh no, I can see you. Let's make you bigger. Hide this. So yeah, like it is literally that. It is that simple. We literally just sort of have points on the model where we would just actually because I've got a different body on. It's gonna be a pain to show up. 2 seconds. Apologies. Let's
Yeah,
go for.
it's kind of in a book which I showed off a few weeks back, which me as a game animator have a copy of all the time. The Animated Survival Kit.
Right, that makes sense. So that's another thing that we have a benefit with this character because Dawn studied game animation when she was at university,
Mm-hmm.
and she's applied that to um, the character design itself because she just knows what it's going to need to be animatable. She kind of applies it to everything. But yeah, like I was saying, it's straightforward. It's just sort of we literally move the joints around where they need to be. Could do the same thing with other elements. And then it's just straight up recorded using Unity's animation tools because that's, again, straightforward enough that I can do relatively complex things and it all just lines up and behaves, allows you to do little tiny flourishes. Um, and it's all sort of structured into a relatively complex at this point animation tree as well,
Yeah, but
which is then
whenever
also.
when I've been doing my animations and coding things in, the animation trees always look daunting when they're not.
Yeah, this is a lot more simple than it like can appear on the surface. Like this is the most complex one, and that's just because every expression needs to be able to point to every other expression. And then we get this distinct one that when you enter this one, we go into this one afterwards, and then that takes you out to the other ones again. It looks more daunting than it is. It's actually quite simple. Um, I think it would be
Yeah.
nice to see this tool evolve a little bit because I feel like it's been stagnant for almost the entire time I've been working with the engine.
Mm.
But it does the job. It's just not the quickest to work with sometimes. So would like to see some usability improvements, but maybe
Yeah,
that's
but
hoping for too much Unity.
one thing with Unity, if you look at tutorials from 6 years ago, they're still valid today.
That is true. That's one of the benefits to a certain degree. It's definitely a downside in a way as well because it's just that shows the lack of big change that's actually happened over the years. But that sort of consistency is also part of the reason that I still feel very comfortable within the engine.
Hmm.
Um,
It's
whereas
not
like
like
I have
Unreal, where
always struggled to pick up Unreal. Yeah, exactly. Every time I look at Unreal, it's different, and every time I look at Unreal, I just get an instant headache, and it's just a real frustration to me.
oh, don't get me
Uh,
wrong. It's like I've got my main project is in Unreal. Sorry, my main project, made in the Night in the Maid Museum,
hmm,
is in Unity. My next space game is in Unreal, so I can
hmm.
say I can use both engines. And then I have my mobile challenge, which is done in Godot.
I'm really curious about that, like, because it's sort of I've been I found myself several times when I've been like out and about, just thinking, well, if I had something that was small enough and portable enough, I would just be able to start making something or doing something. Like if I could just do that on the go with something like Godot, that's kind of a huge game changer for me. So maybe I really do need to give it the time I haven't done yet.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is
that's
Godot.
nuts. Like it's so wild to me to think about being able to do that, like just while out and about. Because I traveled down to develop, um, all the way from up here in the north earlier this year, and I found I was basically able to do everything I would normally do for my job except working in Unity. So I could do my
Yes.
documentation work. I could do all of like my sketching, my sort of thinking about what these mechanics are going to be. I could plan ahead, but I couldn't action anything. But if I could run the software on the phone and just do it wherever I was, that's a huge game changer. So I
Yeah, I
really do need to
wish I
plan. I
wish
haven't done yet.
Unity had a version which ran on the phone.
Yeah. Again,
Obvious.
Unity's an interesting case as well because Unity has always said that Unity runs on Unity. Like in theory, you could put it in and make it work. It's just in practice, it's quite a big. It's already a big UI shift, and Unity is, like we said, not prone to making big changes often. So
But no,
yeah.
it's I'm gonna say if you've got a tablet, it's great
Mhm.
working on Godot on a tablet. On your phone, it's a nightmare. It's just the screen size, but I know you've got the Fold 7.
Yes, I was gonna say I've got like a little bit more screen real estate than like other people might have, just being able to unfold the phone and have it be twice as big. But it's sort of even just on that closed front screen, it would be enough for me to do something while I'm on the
Hmm.
move. When I was doing that travel, I was doing half my work on the phone and half my work on my iPad mini at the same time. So it's sort of a nice cross-platform exploration there anyway. Although I can't imagine that running something like that would ever happen on an iOS device.
Oh, well, I'm
So
not gonna lie. If I was going to get a new, decent tablet, I'd probably get the S11 Ultra.
I've seen that's doing really well. Like it seems like a really nice just device for just massive power and portability. Like I'm curious, but I've always had, well, until recently, I've always had bad experiences with Android tablets. But having used a Fold for the past 3 years now, when was the four? Whenever the four came out, I got the four the first late in the first year it came out. Um, I can kind of see that that's moved forwards slowly, and it seems like that's even going to get even more of a push with the trifold that they're doing, which is even more of a tablet when you unfold it,
Yeah.
as
Do you know
wild
what
as
that?
that concept is.
Do you know what that phone reminds me of?
Mm.
Did you ever watch Westworld?
No, I didn't actually. I never got to
In
Westworld.
in Westworld, they have like a device like yay big by yay big. It like do that, but then when you just unfold it, it turns into a full size tablet. And I'm
That's
thinking
kind of cool. I can
that
see that
came
being like
out
very fun.
in when did Westworld come out? Was it 2018?
It's got to be like something like 2018. That sounds about right. I think that's when people were talking about it. I
So
lose track.
Westworld is a lot older because there's the film which is like a
Mm-hmm.
precursor to the series, and it was 2016.
Wow. Okay. But yeah, like that's not surprising. That's how what's the word? Brain stopped. That's how technology tends to come out of sci-fi, I find though. Like it'll be about, especially now, it's be about 10 years and we'll see what we were seeing in fiction starting to become a reality and more in scary ways as well, obviously.
Yeah, I have a feeling the reason why that phone folds the way it does is because someone's watched Westworld. I'm not gonna lie, you have it in films. You
Mm.
look at technology in films from 10 years, 10, 15, 30 years ago. It's now coming alive because we have the technology spec to do it. It's
Yeah,
like
I
in
mean that's
games.
you go all the way back to the communicators in the original Star Trek, effectively the precursor to flip phones.
Hmm.
Yeah, like it's always happened.
It was funny when
So
people
I'm not
were if someone modded one of those flip phones, so when you ever opened it up, it made the it's like communication.
that's kind of cool.
But yeah,
But yeah,
so
so that yeah, that's a quick sort of look over the bits I've been doing recently, which isn't so much game dev as it is like game dev adjacent and sort of taking all the stuff that I've learned in my years working in development. and putting it into something slightly different. Partly because the industry being the way that it is right now, it feels valuable to diversify into other options, obviously. But I know for myself that I can't really, that my passion is absolutely still design and game design and what I can do with that and how I can make a player experience interesting. Because even that stuff that I'm doing is still how do I make this fun to interact with as a user as well as for the people watching it. So, you
Yeah,
know, you can't
because
escape
let's if your game has got boring mechanics, it's going to get picked up, put down within 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the things I stand by, and like, there's a conversation to be had, but if the game isn't fun when it's spheres and cubes, it won't be fun when it's pretty.
Mm,
Like, it can look nicer, and that's not me saying that there's no value in art. Art makes something sticky. Art makes something last in someone's sort of consciousness far beyond the game mechanics quite often. And that's also the first thing that people see because they don't see what you feel. But if you start playing something that looks gorgeous but feels off,
clunky.
you're less likely
Mm.
to stick with it. But if you made it feel good before you made it pretty, you should be relatively sound to make that pretty thing as pretty as it can be. Whereas otherwise, you're relying on polishing something that's just not as fun to interact with.
Yeah, because that's one thing I have always gone with. Get the gameplay down first.
Hmm.
Don't mind anyone saying, "Oh, it's not pretty,"
Mm-hmm.
because
It's not the
if
point.
your
Not yet.
if your game's not fun to play, or if it's got poor controller issues,
Hmm.
because we've all seen what happens with poor gamer controls happens. Tomb Raider. Um,
Yeah.
that is literally the thing that killed Angel of Darkness. The controls.
Mm.
If you can't play the game with the controls it's got, it
Yeah, if you
Angel.
can't interface with if you can't interface with a game, then it's not a game. It's not a playable experience. That's
Hmm.
what
Even
makes
though
it
Angel of Darkness had the best storyline.
which like that just is the whole thing, right? If you've put all this work into making it an interesting narrative to go through that looks like you want it to, that moves the way that you expect, what does it matter if the player is not able to stomach the actual sequences that get you between those moments or that play through those moments?
Hmm.
It's it's important that it feels good regardless. So I like to focus on it as best I can. It's not always the be all and end all. I think it's especially important for like action RPGs and action games in general, and most multiplayer experiences as well, because that becomes an even more mechanically complex experience. But like it does provide the platform for the experience. And if that experience is going to be pretty, it better feel good to experience, or you're not going to stare at it the whole time.
Hmm. It's probably why Dark Souls has lasted so long. The gameplay mechanics.
Yeah, I think so. And that's an interesting one too, because that's not traditionally there's an argument to be made that's not a traditionally good feeling experience, but it's an interesting feeling experience that keeps players trying and coming back. It's refined and you can feel the refinement quite well. Um, I still, I think Dark Souls 1 is probably my favorite of the whole sort of Souls games structure still. But a lot of that for me actually comes down to the world design and the way that it loops back on itself, the same way that something like actually this is a current thing. Um, Metroid Prime 1 versus Metroid Prime 4, which I've mostly finished. I'm getting to the end of it at the moment. The world design of 1 is so much more tightly bound, intricately wound. Like it sort of feels like you're navigating a space and understanding it more. Whereas 4 is like it's a very traditional hub and spoke. You have your big open space and then a few sticks off of the end, and those sticks off the end don't have much depth or complexity to them as you get through them. They're a bit more linearized. They're a bit more um, sort of directed, which I think is fine to a degree for what they need to do with that franchise to give it the sort of revival that it needs. The Prime side specifically, Metroid Dread was fantastic. I don't think that needs any help. That just needs the developers to be less crunched. Um, Prime 4 is very good, but doesn't feel like Prime 1.
Mhm.
And that's probably okay. I think that's kind of where I've landed on it.
So, we've talked all about the stuff you've done. What's your experience in the industry? So, like, where have you worked? Um, what games have you worked on? Things like that.
Yeah. So I started with my own studio with three other friends, one of which was a partner of mine at the time, still is in fact. We released a game on Steam during the Green Steamlight process when it was sorry, the Steam Greenlight process, which was a whole different way of getting indie games onto and through the platform. It effectively involved a bunch of community voting and getting people to pledge interest before they would even start taking things on. It's very different now because that popularity contest style just doesn't work these days. But that was a big achievement for us. We got it was called Arclight Cascade. It's very simple, sort of multiplayer, local screen, we called it a smash 'em up because it was very much inspired by Smash Bros. You were trying to get your opponents out of the game zone. Um, and I wound up developing that into, uh, it even had a campaign experience that I built, which was very simple, just level to level, play through these things, experience these kinds of enemies. Um, Straightforward, simple, fun game to build, really enjoyed it. Still kind of think it's one of my favorite projects that I've worked on. Um, it's free on Steam, and it has been for years because we had to close the company at some point, and we had income passively coming in the entire time. So we had to just stop it, set the set, and give it away for free to make sure that it stayed up there, so we still have something to point at. But if anyone is interested, that is still there. As I said, that is 10 years old as of August, I think it was. So it's interesting to go back and look at what we did back then. It still works on Steam Deck, which is
Well,
also
I'll
nice.
I'll leave a link to that in the description below.
But after that, I worked at CodeSync for a few years on Shadowpoint, which was a puzzle VR game, which I really enjoyed that game too, making that game and playing that game in hindsight. Um, it's a game about casting shadows with objects, so you would be holding an object, trying to rotate it to fit into a two-dimensional sort of shape on a canvas in the distance, which was interesting to build those puzzles as much as it was to build the entire experience of going through that game. That is on most VR platforms still, I think. I wouldn't know. I'd have to go and talk to the coaching guys, and I know that they're going through their own stuff at the moment with a big layoff pass that's been announced recently, which is sad to hear about. A lot of really good people there. So if anyone's looking for talented folks, please go and chase those coaching people down. Um, I also briefly worked on Jurassic World Aftermath before I left that company, which was its own experience. I quite enjoyed the bits we were doing, but it was starting to grate on me, and it sort of, unfortunately, this is where I started to have problems with what Oculus was becoming before they became Meta.
Hmm.
They went from being led by their creative department to being led by their marketing department. And that meant that one of the projects that we've been pitching to them was kind of like looked at and said, yeah, it's good, but can you make something with dinosaurs in it? Because they really wanted to push their IPs rather than like pushing anything more creative, more original, which meant shelving a project that a significant portion of the development team had already sort of fallen in love with. And that didn't go down great or sit well with a lot of people. And it's one of the reasons I left, which is unfortunate. That game did eventually come out. It came out in two parts, I believe, because it took a while to get through the first part. But I had left the studio to work on Battle Sister 40K, which was a nice Warhammer game made by Pixel Toys, which was a shooter, so a bit more my wheelhouse to a degree because I grew up on shooters. I played a lot of Halo when I was young and still stick with it despite all its things. Um, that project was mostly level design for me, which is one of the reasons I know for sure that I don't really have the head for linear level design structures because it was all I was doing. And while I was capable, I didn't feel like I was getting the best out of it. And I didn't stick with the studio for very long, unfortunately, either. Before I did move on to, yeah, from there I went to Double 11, worked on At that point, I've been doing VR for about 5 years, and like I love the medium, but I was sort of seeing the writing on the wall. Meta was becoming what it is now. Um, they've fundamentally, completely crushed the VR development sort of space into you're either making this game for the Meta devices or you're making something that no one's going to play, and it just kind of ruined the VR development community and space as far as I was concerned.
Yeah,
So I
because
went away from there quite rapidly.
yeah, because I
Sorry, go
know
ahead.
when I'm building mine, because mine is Night in the Main Museum. It's non-VR but also VR at the same time, and I did look at other headsets, but the MetaQuest 3S,
Yeah,
this one
it's
was the
super accessible.
most.
It's relatively cheap. It's very powerful for what it can do,
Mhm.
and it's the platform that has the most sort of. I think other than the two, it has the most market saturation. So it's the sensible one to develop for. But it's it's become part of Meta's monopoly of what that whole structure is, and that I just don't like the way they work, and I also don't like that they've completely dominated that space in a way that makes it feel untenable. But yes, that was after Pixel Toys. I actually had an offer from both Double Eleven and from N-Dreams, and N-Dreams is obviously still doing VR stuff even now, which I'm so happy to see that it's still going and they're still doing things. But I decided to go with Double Eleven to work on something a bit more traditional. So I wound up on Prison Architect 2 for the better part of 3 years, I think. I'd need to go back and double check, but that was its own experience. One I genuinely enjoyed working on. As a designer, it was a very satisfying project for me. It let me go back even further in my game playing history of like looking at the old Tycoon games. Like I grew up on Roller Coaster Tycoon and Transport Tycoon, and I wanted to find ways to bring that sort of business development gameplay into the Prison Architect games because the first PA was more about the simulation and more about the sort of experience of just seeing these little guys moving around. It's actually something that's really interesting to go and listen to Chris talk about in the development videos, going back to all the old introversion stuff, even into the current introversion stuff, where they're making um, the Last Starship, which is again the same kind of concept of agents moving things around, putting stuff together, creating sequences, which I love to see, but I wanted to see what I could do to bring it into a business management structure. I got the opportunity to do some of that um, before winding up mostly leading the project as a designer, and that took a lot of my creative energy away and made it much more of a people management experience, which again I quite enjoyed, but it was a different development experience for me. Um, I really appreciate the ability and the opportunity to help designers who didn't necessarily have the experience that I have had almost get a leg up from the stuff that I have learned and be able to then go forward faster. And I'm so proud of the development and design team who I left behind of that project who've gone and done really cool things within where they're working still. So I'm at least satisfied by that. But it is unfortunate that PA2, I'm not sure will ever see the light of day based on the way the Paradox is pushing things down the line. I don't know. Unfortunately, I have no insight. Um, but the project got moved off of Double Eleven onto another external studio at some
Mhm.
point, which is public knowledge and easy to go and find. You just go to the Steam page. I think it's in the in the article history somewhere. There's something that says about it. Um, and it was quite sad to lose that, but it was business in the end at the end of the day. And um, I'm really curious to see if it ever does come out and what it looks like when it does at this point, because I can't imagine that it's the same game that it was when we left it.
Mhm. It's
Not
kind
after
of
this
like
long.
what's happened with Subnautica.
Yeah, yeah. Subnautica has been a whole nother sort of weird story, especially with the stuff that's going on legally with the devs at the moment. Like, I'm keeping an eye on it because it's kind of wild.
Yeah, because it's
But
like none of the original
Yeah.
dev team works on it anymore. It's just like,
You know,
and I know,
there's a lot of that happens a lot at the moment, especially like, and I don't know how much. Part of me is like, because Double Eleven like didn't have any of the original Introversion team on it, but they had taken over work on PA1 for a few years at that point and sort of kept making DLCs and extending the game. But that team was still functionally separate from the Prison Architect 2 team. So there was only a little bit of crossover experience even there. It's interesting how much the industry, I think, doesn't value long-term knowledge and experience enough. And I mean, that's also obvious with the way that layoffs have been going these days, where we're just dropping people, like, which is good for short-term financial gain, but for long-term, you're losing years and years of embedded experience to just needing to please shareholders in most cases, which
but
isn't the best for long-term health.
isn't that because with how some studios structure themselves, when they've got like a long-term project, they hire people in for that. Then maybe
Often, yeah.
80% through that project, they start another one, but then hire an entirely new team for that one instead of where the last
Maintaining them.
20% moving people who weren't doing much onto the new project, which
Yeah, I mean, some of it is, yes, but at the same time, that's kind of the nature of trying to push things out as fast as we do as an industry these days. Like, we are so heavily embedded in sequel after sequel at this point that it feels like there's no breathing room for these things in between releases sometimes. Like, in other cases, obviously, there's years and years. Like I was just literally talking about Metro Prime. It's been almost what 12 years since 3 or something like that, which that's ridiculous. But that's not
13.
like that game was being developed for that entire duration either, so it's a whole sort of another question there.
No, that got teased in 2018.
It did. It was teased way too early as far as we could tell. It
Yeah,
seems like they barely started on it, and then what, it changed developers at some point as well, went back to retro. So,
th-
and I don't actually know if it even was long term the core retro team that wound up building the whole thing. It's Nintendo's quite sort of not secretive, but not very open or transparent about who is developing what and how they're developing it. Like, and to be fair, that's for them to decide whether they want to do it. It's just that itself can feel like, how did we even know that it is the retro team? And for the most part, the people who made the original Metro Prime games have left retro in the years since. A significant portion of them wound up working on things like Halo 4, um, which is another whole sort of jump. And people have said that Metroid Prime 4 kind of looks like a Halo 4 version of the Metroid sort of visual experience, and I don't disagree with that. It feels like maybe they did go back and get a bunch of the team together. Um, I think it's a gorgeous game. I really, really like what it's landed on. It's just there's definitely that sort of influence of, you can almost feel the people who worked on it having this consistent sort of through path through the industry who've made it back as well. It's really fascinating to sort of break it down and go back through it.
it's
I feel
like
like
kind
I
of
had it
like it's
in
like
front of this and I
Callisto.
completely forgot.
It's like
Sorry.
Callisto Protocol,
Yeah. Yes.
where
Yeah.
you could tell that was Dead Space, just not branded as Dead Space because that was the original team of Dead Space who built that, and they
There's
obviously
Dead
they
Space
can't.
is something very different, really. And then they tried the revival, which I don't feel like I heard much about the remake of Dead Space 1 that came out. I feel like
I,
it very much dropped off in my spaces, but maybe that was just me.
I heard it was good. It was a very good follow remake of one, but it's just that it is a remake of one, so there was no major updates, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, it's sort of just not there's not many new ideas being brought forward, which again is another current industry trend, I would say, of we are redoing things rather than pushing things forward. Um, as much of a fan of Halo as I am and have been, there's a Halo 1 remake coming up, and I'm like,
It
is this
doesn't
going to
need it.
change things in a way that makes any value, brings anything of interest? I'm knowing how I am, I'll probably play it, but there's only so much of that you can rely on, surely.
Mm,
Maybe not, I don't know. Like maybe that's part of the naivety from my perspective of is that enough to keep a business going? Maybe it is.
yeah,
I think
it's
it's indicative of a broader problem with sustainability of game development, and that's where my point wanted to go. Um, when you're pushing a team like what you were describing before, where you've got this team that is making something else, and then you spin off a small portion of that team to start a new thing, and you spin off a small portion of that team to start a new thing. When do these folks get a rest period? Like so
yeah,
much of creativity is having time to sit, digest, and think, and process everything around you before you start creating this new concept, this new idea. When I talk about sustainable game development these days, I actually liken it to sustainable farming practices because it's there's genuinely a lot of parallels. If we don't give the field time to recover, nothing will grow. We need developers to have downtime between projects. We need to have time for them to breathe and recover, and we need to make sure that they are happy and healthy, and that we are moving them around onto different things that actually satisfy their nutrients requirement, right? Like if you're putting someone on the same thing for 20 years, they might be good with that. And in fact, the people who stay that long probably are good with that. But you've almost certainly lost significant portions of those important team members to uh, it's the monotony of doing the same thing for that length of time. I can't
yeah, because
imagine that a 20-year franchise has the same people working on it anymore, especially if they were just forced to do that thing and that thing alone the entire time.
you get it's repetitive boredomness. You're doing the same thing over and over and over, and you just if you're not getting anything new given to you, you just feel like you're just doing the same thing different day, and it's like
Yeah,
you start slowly
it's
going
not.
insane.
You can't make something interesting if you're not interested. Like one of the things this is a big throwback for me, but at university, like one of the things I took away from one of my favorite lecturers actually was you can't make fun if you don't have fun.
Yeah,
It's really
because
important to actually enjoy what you're doing to make something that is enjoyable for other people. You're transferring your feelings into what you're creating. That's what art is to me. It's putting forward what you are experiencing for other people to experience. And it can feel trite to a degree, like especially if you were just making like some relatively rote shooter experience or something. Like it's just put these people in a box and see them fight. Like fine, but the people who have fun making that are the ones who make the most fun game out of that idea. So there's some truth to it, even in that sort of less artistically valuable, heavy air quotes, space. Like I don't think anything is not artistically valuable. It's just a different context, but just to sort of simplify the position a little bit.
yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like I said, if you're not having fun building it, how do you know it's fun?
Yeah, no, you start to like every project does eventually start to feel a bit like an endless slog. Like I think that just happens with game dev because
Yeah,
you
it's
you're pushing at the littlest pieces, just trying to get them all to fit into their final positions, especially when it's bug fixing more than anything. But if you haven't had a good time building it for the duration, you probably haven't been able to think about it in a positive light. And if you can't do that, then you aren't going to be able to give it the cognitive processing that it needs, especially in design, to really make it something that's fun to actually experience.
yeah, because it's
Like
like
that,
with
sorry, you go, you go, you go
it's
ahead.
like it's like with mine at the moment. The Night in the Maid Museum is stalled mostly because I'm stuck on the level design, and every time I build a new part of the environment, I'm questioning myself when doing it,
Right.
and it's like, is
Well,
this right? Is this right? Do a tweak. No, this doesn't. You get to a point
at
where you
least you're doing
start.
it the right way around, and you've got gameplay systems before you start trying to build levels. Because I
Hmm,
found that there's a lot of people try and do it the other way around because you're looking to generate content, and level design is readably content. But if you're building levels without having finished a significant portion of your mechanical design, you're not building anything but blank boxes, because that level has to support the mechanical influence, right? You have to build things that actually speak to the gameplay systems that you've put together. And if you haven't built those gameplay systems, then what are you building if you're building a level design? That kind of becomes a problem.
Yeah, because
And
one
I've seen
thing,
it happen so many times as well.
yeah, what I normally do, I build ugly games, turn them pretty.
Hmm.
Because if you start with a game that's ugly but plays great, you've got a game, just
Yeah.
not a pretty game. A pretty game can be made. Well, sorry, an ugly game can be made pretty, but a pretty game doesn't always make a pretty game. Sometimes it can make an ugly gameplay mechanic.
Hmm. It's
Because,
really important to have it feel good early. Like otherwise, you are just polishing something that. Well, I mean, the term, the colloquial term is polishing a turd, right? And like
mhm.
that's to a degree, there's an element of truth in that. Like again, I never devalue the visual aspect of things. They are one and the same as design to a degree. If you don't have good visual explanation of your game will be harder to understand. But if the game didn't feel fun when it was just primitives, then it's just you're already it's so much more of an upward battle than you would otherwise have, and it's worth investing the time in the thought and the mechanical intricacy early, so you understand what you're building before you start to pretty it up. And it's sort of I think it's missed a lot of the time that a significant portion of game design is sitting and thinking. Like it 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 is it doesn't because that doesn't quantify as like a deliverable or something that you can easily put down on a on a Jira tracker, for example. It's often not thought about, but without that thought time, you're just throwing stuff and seeing what happens, and that's not going to bring you a cohesive product in the long run. Like there's an element of that in prototyping where you do want to throw these ideas together and see what does stick together. But before that, you still need to understand which things you want to start prototyping. And documentation of that can sure that can be some of your sort of tracking of that. But even before you're writing a document, you still need to have done the thinking. You need to have done effectively the reading, the research, the exploration of similar games and concepts that are out there, and sort of figure out what your peers are doing, and then bring all of that information into this one melting pot and deliver that as the justification for why you're going to try these experiences. Um, and it's so cognitive. It's so it's so up here in the brain versus like anything you can put outwards that it gets missed quite frequently, especially in those bigger spaces where you have developed structures that allow you to just pump out the same thing over and over again. I think that's why we've seen a decline in players latching on to long-term franchises, because they've built these structures that allow them to just do the same thing again easily, and that's not as interesting. It's not as fun.
Yeah, because it's like EA with COD. It's the same game, just rebranded every year with because they let's face it, they don't care about the story.
Yeah, yeah,
They
no, it's not what
only
it's for.
care about the multiplayer aspect.
Yeah.
Where I'm not gonna lie, I play a lot more of the older CODs because the storyline was good.
Mm. Hmm. That's what people remember when I think when they go back and remember Modern Warfare. I think the original, in particular, probably Modern Warfare 2 has the same sort of
Yeah,
mindset of like, I was there for the campaign, I was not there for the multiplayer. The multiplayer was what kept me going afterwards. But that's become the thing that the business is latching onto, because that's the bit that the business can monetize and consistently create this games as a service product, which like I see value in its own right, but I also see it being the most unsustainable part of the industry, especially when everyone is trying to be the same thing. If everyone is trying to be a game as a service, people only have time for one or two, and we can't have 100 of them going. And I
hmm
think we've seen the realities of that started to hit businesses who've tried and failed to get something out of it. that fits that space, especially when the dominant figures in that space now are so dominant. Like Fortnite is not something that is going to be beaten by something challenging Fortnite. It's not. We won't have that same concept of the Halo killer that we had back in that time frame when that was a thing. Like the Halo killer, as it were, I think was Destiny, and that was more about the development team moving on to doing something new and interesting. And now
Wasn't
we
that
see what Destiny 2 has gotten to. It's just a whole nother sort of problem. They've hit stagnation and they can't move forward again.
so?
But
Where
yeah.
do you? So you mentioned you worked at Double Eleven.
Yes.
Is,
Finished going through my history, but yeah, yes,
was
I
that
did.
your so if this that's where your experience ends because you left there when?
I briefly worked on Fallout 76 afterwards, but very briefly. I don't really feel like I did had much of a significant contribution to that project.
So when did you
I
work
was
on that?
mostly oh God, end of 20 about. So I finished up on PA2 2023. We did a little bit at the start of the year. Was it 23? I'm terrible at time. Yes. So I did about 7, 8 months of time in 2024 on Fallout 76, and then went to do more independent stuff that I'm doing now, where I'm doing contract work, where I do bits and pieces for other people, and I spent the better part of 9 months on a contract after Double 11, which I don't think I can talk about much yet because it's still very early days and very early stages. And
Mhm.
if and when it comes out, I'll share. But like, yeah, it was an interesting platforming project that I did quite enjoy working on. Um, so I'm excited to see where that goes in the long run. But yeah, that's the totality of my history at this point.
Because so what's your next event? What are you looking into doing now? Because you mentioned there was like some other projects coming up.
Yeah, so I've got one that I'm doing for myself, which was mostly spawned off of a joke. One of my partners said Balatzi, which is Bellatra and Yahtzee smushed together. And I was like, actually, I think I can make something out of that. So just to sort of for myself, I am building a roguelike Yahtzee-esque game, which is just rolling dice, trying to meet targets, and then cycling that sequence. Very tight design loop. Um, and the other project that I'm looking at, again, I can't say too much on, partly because it's so early that we haven't fully defined it, but it's a project I'm working on mostly for a friend who I've wanted to work with for a long time, who has had a really interesting idea about something that combines incremental games and horror experience into one cool thing. And I'm not usually a big fan of horror, but the way that this one's been described to me is like so tailored to my exact tastes that I can't resist it, and I can see it being very interesting. But it's indie space stuff. It's very small scale. Like I get on much better with indie teams, I think, than I do with the more established, bigger developers, and that's partly just because my mindset is much more compatible with that, as I think has been obvious from the way I've talked about how bigger studios are working these days. If we can't make sustainable projects at scale, I don't think we should be doing it. And I think we're harming developers by burning them out, by pushing them through these intense things, by not giving them the time to recover. That it's just harmful, and we are losing talent, not helped by the layoffs that are going on across the industry, but we are losing talent to exhaustion and burnout and frustration. That means that this industry is losing a massive knowledge base. And that's not going to help us keep going as an industry. It's going to see us fall down at some point. And the hope may be to replace a bunch of this with AI, which I don't think is going to work, obviously, personally. But
We're still good
what
two
happens
de-
when that falls apart?
we're
Where
still
do we
good
go? Who do we look to? Because if the industry's lost all its industrial, its long-term knowledge, what next?
we're still a good decade and a half away from AI actually producing a game.
Yeah, possibly even longer, I think. Like they'll put out things that are fueled by it and things that are partially constructed by it, but that's no different from what we've already been doing for years. A lot of what AI is kind of how we've already been using automated systems in the games industry for
Yeah, because me
another 10
and
years, 15.
yeah, because me and Kieran was talking about it in the last podcast with stuff like Speed Tree, where that generates
Yeah,
stuff, and
exactly.
we've been using generative. We just don't. It just wasn't publicly advertised. We're not.
It wasn't understood. Yeah.
It's not. We're not. It's not like we're completely generating games from prompts. We gave it
No.
some idea. Stuff like character design, environments, all done by people.
Yeah.
But there's some things like, oh yeah, we model a tree. You
Yeah, there's only so many
don't
ways you can do it, right?
yeah, you don't
You
want
may
to
as well have
be
tools for it.
you don't want to be sat there modeling 200 trees.
Some people do. Like I've seen how artists get about rocks, and like I'm fascinated by it. Like, 'cause, like you can do so much world sort of set dressing with one good rock.
Mm.
So like I kind of like love that space as well, but it's sort of it really depends, I think, on what you're building too. Like if you do want to build this thing that feels fully handcrafted, you're going to want to put the time and effort in. And that's something I've been saying for a while. Well, like a lot of people are afraid of automation taking over and removing all of this livelihood. And yes, we should be worried, not because I think it's a realistic outcome anytime soon, but because it is going to devalue everything else that we do, which we're already seeing with people, especially the younger generations now, being more interested in free experiences that they can get by playing Fortnite or Roblox and playing in that space. Um, but we also need to be mindful of what it's going to do for handcrafted experiences. So another analog that we can look at in other industries, IKEA exists, right? And that's relatively mass-produced furniture. There are also still people who will do bespoke furniture and will do
Mm.
bespoke pieces that will be specifically tailored to the needs of the individual. I think we will see a similar market in games where there will always be an interest in something that is human made. There will always be an interest in something that has been tangibly handcrafted by people who are skilled and learned and just experienced in building these things, because you can feel the difference when you play it. When you look at it, you can see the difference when you look at AI art versus like handcrafted pieces, and that's not going to go away, and there will become an inherent value in that. So we just need to make sure that we maintain it
Yeah,
and
because
keep
you can
people
you can
thinking about it as well to a
yeah
degree.
yeah because you can always tell when someone's played it with the movement speed.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
genuinely.
when you're thinking it, oh yeah, an AI is just going to get the perfect movement speed. No, it's not, because each character moves a different way.
Yeah, it's something that I find personally is quite instinctive. Like it's not about knowing the number, it's about what feels right when you're
Hmm.
playing it and developing it. When I pull a random number out of my butt and it's the exact number for that game to feel right, that's not guesswork, that's experience
Yeah,
translating into tangible gameplay, game feel.
it's like
Like
if
again, it's undervaluing the brain part of the game development process.
yeah, it's like if you've been a Unity developer and you know the gravity force. If you
Yeah.
know the gravity and you know the player speed, and you keep using the same numbers over and over again, nah, I'm going to change this to 5.62. Why?
Yeah.
Okay, just play it with 5.62.
Yeah,
And yeah, how
trust
do you
me.
know that
Yeah,
was going to
play
work?
it with this number.
Oh,
Exactly. Yes.
it's the we use this value in like a few other games, and it's just like it's just weirdly the perfect number when we've got this gravity set. Is it? Yeah, it's
Mm.
weird, isn't it? It's just like you instantly know those numbers because of your past experiences.
Yeah.
An AI
So
may
just
fall
adjust
lucky, but
the menu.
you'd have to do so many tweaks. It's why I never suggest anyone to use AI generated code. It
Yeah,
is
because it's
horrible to read.
a lot of it's very poorly optimized, I found as well from what I've seen too. Like I find so I've been using Rider, the JetBrains code ID, and like it's not like it's writing for me. It's still taking what I am typing and extrapolating what I am going to write next based on what exists in my code base.
Yes.
But even that still it still gets that wrong. So like I know I'm going to be still paying attention and having to go back and so
Visual Studios has implemented something similar.
mm,
So when you're typing, it tries to predict what you're going to do. I'm
yeah,
not gonna lie, it gets it about 70% of the time. So it's great when you're
right, and something.
writing for loops because you
Yeah,
don't
when you're
want
doing
it's
this,
just
when
like
you're doing the same thing over and over again, it can extrapolate. Hey, it's the same thing I saw before.
yeah, it's just like
Sometimes it's a logic of this is X min and this is X max, and it'll be able to say, okay, so this value should be bigger than that one, and that's logical guesswork. But tuning that number is still going to be something that needs doing by hand.
it's like when I'm doing like having to write for loops and it's just like I can just start typing for close bracket then it just predicts everything I need it because it reads the variables it's pulling from earlier. And ooh, you're gonna
Yeah,
try doing this one, aren't you? Yeah, I am actually just tab. Yay!
and then I go
Okay.
back to it 2 hours later, and I'm like, why did it use that variable? It was supposed to use this variable.
Yeah,
Eventually fix.
but the thing is, that's me not reading the code afterwards. After
That's
generating it.
that's 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 the same mistake human makes without an AI sometimes too. Like when you are, especially if you're tired, when you're doing repetitive tasks, you'll make mistakes.
Yeah,
And
come on.
if you are tired and you're doing repetitive tasks that something else is writing for you, you will not notice mistakes. You just have to be more
Who's
diligent and debugger in those contexts, and that is still something that people have difficulty with.
who's not done 11 a.m. works till 11 p.m.
Best
work
practices
session?
morning. Yeah,
Oh, what?
exactly.
Yeah. Were you there when the one of the labs at uni, at Teesside kept breaking?
Oh, I might have been. I don't. I
It
know I was there when they
it,
started to ban people from sleeping in there.
it was do you remember the Athena third floor, the one which had no aircon, the one with
Oh, yes, I vaguely
no
do.
windows. Yeah, do you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, my class kind of caused that one. All the developers stole all the rooms with the windows,
I
and they forced
okay.
all the animators inside that one room. You know how hot it gets when it's when you're rendering.
I mean, hell, I've seen animators trying to figure out how to do an animation. They're the ones like moving around in front of a big mirror half the time, so they're generating body heat on top of it.
Yeah,
Sounds
it.
awful.
I remember shortly before that. Yeah, we kind of caused that one, but yeah, it's very intensive when you think about it. It's kind of why I'm
Yeah.
doing this project, the phone project.
Mm.
It's also it's like, can I do it?
Yeah, that's
Hmm.
the thing that gets me is like, is this feasible at all? And that's kind of curious in its own way. I'm
Okay,
very interested to see how it goes.
question. I've been asking everyone this.
Mhm.
Unreal, Unity.
I mean, I'm a Unity girl. I have been for
Okay.
about as long as I've been identifying as a girl, actually, about the same length of time. I started with Unity in my third year of uni, so, and that's actually when I came out publicly, so it's literally the entire time.
Because yeah, that's the weird thing with Teesside. They only ever taught Unreal.
Yeah, it was I think that's part of why I wanted to try it, because I felt like I was being pigeonholed at the time into only Unreal, and I just had so many problems with how it behaved. And one of the programmers I was working with was like, "Have you tried this? Have you seen how this works?" And sort of pointed me at it, and it immediately clicked.
Hmm.
And I started writing code as well for the first time, and was like, "Oh, this is just better for me."
Because yeah,
Um,
if it was
it's
2014,
so
wasn't it?
much more open. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, because you finished a year before. 2 years after I did. No, 2 years before I did. Sorry,
I think it
let me
must be
correct that.
before. Yeah, I think it was before. But like
2013.
I
You
was
were
hanging
2013.
around for a while as well. Like I stuck around in the area for years and years after actual graduation as well.
Yeah,
But
because I think
yeah,
it was
my
Gamebridge.
yeah,
Yeah, with Bruce. Yeah, I
I
saw
was there
Bruce.
for a lot of Gamebridge. We also were running our own little thing at the time as well, Gamebox, to sort of get people in to play games and
Mm.
talk to each other a bit more,
Yeah, because I saw
which was nice.
Bruce a few weeks back actually.
Yeah, nice. He didn't make it to the recent Gamebridge, unfortunately, which is where I last would have had an opportunity.
Mine
I think I last
was
saw it in Brighton.
mine was the Game Republic Award. Uh, yeah, the is it Game Republic?
Mhm.
Yeah, Game
That
Republic.
makes sense.
Yeah, awards since it was in Wakefield, so it was
Ah, yeah,
very
that makes
close to
sense.
where me. So,
Yeah.
what advice would you give to someone who's wanting to get into the industry?
Oh God, right now I don't know. Usually my advice would be make something, which like kind of is the only option at the moment, I think. Um, because of the way that the industry is with hiring and the way that the industry is with firing currently. Um, it's something I have a lot less enthusiasm for than I used to, in encouraging people to come into the space just because of the sheer struggle that it's been for the past few years for a lot of people. But I think still my main advice is pick up an engine, start fiddling with it, try and get something happening, follow some tutorials online. They exist. Um, you don't need a university degree for this stuff. It can help. What you'll get out of university, I found, and what I think is still true now, is connections and a boosted experience. But there's nothing you cannot get from doing things a different way, and frankly, you'll get it a lot cheaper by not going to university these days too. So it is worth noting that the year I went to university was the year before the university tuition fees were increased by 3 times. So I was the last group of people who got a cheap ride, and
No, 2015 or so, 20, yeah, 2013 also got it, and they held the promise of, sorry, no, it must have been 2012, 2013, where they held the promise if you joined that year, you
Mhm.
didn't get hit by the hikes at all during
Mm,
during your time. So
okay,
instead of
that's lucky
being,
for that group.
yeah,
So then I just remember I was in London during the protest marches around raising tuition fees, and I was halfway through my first year at the time, and was pretty mad about it, honestly, because it just was. It's just more money being sort of siphoned out of people who need it. Like it's already expensive enough to be a student at all, and it's only gotten more expensive and more difficult these days, especially with the cost of living itself having increased so dramatically. It's hard to justify doing a course for this stuff in a university when you could probably find enough resources online for free to get a head start and to get somewhere yourself and put something out, even if it's small. And just releasing something small on HIO is itself kind of
mhm.
its own, like, I think that's the best thing to do if you really want to commercialize it. I think the best thing to do if you don't is to just make something anyway and see how it goes.
Yeah, because ironically, I was going to ask, is it what do you think it's still worth going to university, or is it worth going?
If
Um,
you have the means, if you are one of the lucky people who can afford to live through that university course, you might be still. I wouldn't say yes, but it will be more. It'll be more important now than it ever was to put in what you expect to get out, and that
mhm.
also includes networking as much as it includes learning. You really do need to invest yourself more deeply than you ever did before, And frankly, I didn't. I did a lot of that stuff after university, largely because I was figuring out that I was trans at the same time and had
Mm,
to sort of figure out who I am on top of it all, which isn't exactly an uncommon experience of people going to university. It's where you start to figure out who you are in a lot of different ways as well. But that, if I was going through that same thing now, A, it's terrifying being trans in the UK right now, which doesn't help, but B, it feels like I would have to put a lot more energy into things that didn't feel as important to me then as they would do in the
no.
current modern
Yep.
experience.
Because I will say, to get in the industry, it's not about. It's gone back to. It's not what you know. It's
It's who.
who you know.
It's absolutely who. Go to events, make friends, be a good person. Will get you so much more than anything else. Genuinely, um, being friendly, being kind, being supportive of each other is probably the best thing to do these
Also,
days. Being
buying
genuine about doing that, obviously, as well.
that or buying HR drinks. The person who's the hiring manager drinks, and just
But yeah, pay.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's something. When you are in industry, I think there's it's actually a slightly different thing. I was going to say one of the things I've found is once you're in a studio is the people to make friends with first are your QA team and your production team because it's the people who tell you what's broken and it's the people who tell you how you're going to fix it. Like those are the important people to be friendly with, so you can actually get that information flow moving in the way that it needs to be moving. Um, HR is on that list, but it is lower on that list,
Yeah.
and I'm more likely to make enemies with HR than I am make friends personally. Turns out. Um, but that's because I will always push for better sickness pay, better working from home options, and just making sure that we keep people as happy as possible because that is such a hard thing to push for in this industry where we are trying to maximize numbers rather than maximizing well-being. It's the fundamental way that capitalism does this to industries. So it's hard to avoid, but we can avoid it. We can do better.
Hmm. Okay. So, is there anything you would like to do in the future? You'd love to see, love to build, or anything you want to announce? Let's say in a game projects. Any?
Oh, I don't know. Obviously, like the two things I've currently got on my plate, other than the VTubing thing, are more passion projects than anything, and that's intriguing to me, but not like they're not the thing I'd like to make. That said, honestly, these days I don't know what the thing is. I think what I would like to make personally is a studio rather than like a project, because I would really like to be able to support cool ideas coming forwards in a space that is prioritizing developer well-being, because it's just so important to me that
Mhm.
we have an industry that does prioritize that, because I personally believe we can deliver better products and better experiences to the player by making the experience of game development itself a better thing for the actual people making the games. So I don't really have much drive to make anything specific as a game for myself. There's nothing that jumps out at me as like I need to make this in my life other than a better place for people to work. That's the thing that I find the most important. And it's unfortunately very hard to do when you don't have boatloads of money behind you. So I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but it's what I would love to do. And if anyone feels like investing, please get in touch.
Okay. Last question. What got you into games? Wanting to build games, and what was the first game you remember enjoying playing?
Oh, this is a complicated one for me. So I think the thing that got me into making games was Halo, was making maps in Halo 3 in particular using the level editor, which is weird because of how much I don't really jive with level work these days. That's what got me the idea of, oh, you can build stuff, you can make things in these systems that give you different experiences based on the tools that you're giving the player. That was a fundamental learning experience as an early designer before even figuring out what game design actually was. But the actual first things I experienced and enjoyed as games was things like Transport Tycoon, which I mentioned earlier. I think that's one of my earliest gaming experiences. Like when I was a kid, I loved trains, and my parents latched onto that and put a video game that had trains in, and I would just play that for days and loved it. And that's where a lot of my passion for long-term um, business management sort of gameplay systems has come from. I still enjoy poking at that sort of thing every so often when I actually have time, which is much more rare these days. And I think it's a genre that has been on the back burner for a little while outside of like the Planet Coaster, Planet Zoo type stuff from Frontier, which I enjoy but don't find has the depth of the older systems, even though it is technically a deeper system. It doesn't feel as accessible.
Hmm.
Um, but also Tetris. It's like, the one thing I can do without thinking, the way that I test how sick I am is how well I can play Tetris. Because if I can play Tetris, if I can do a marathon run of Tetris in 7 minutes or less, I'm doing okay. It takes me longer, something's wrong. And it's just something I've been able to figure out over years, and I can use it as a metric for myself because I've played
Mm.
it so much. And I grew up with that on the Game Boy, obviously, as well. Like playing that with my parents was a really good sort of young experience, and that's something I think honestly that I've not had enough opportunities to do things in the industry where you are putting two people into the same space. I think every experience I've had has been to when I've been playing games has been something not necessarily multiplayer, but played by multiple people. And the only project I've formally worked on that fits that is Arclight, which is the first thing I made, where it is a local multiplayer experience where you are hitting two things against each other. Um, I think human connection is one of the things I value most in games, and I don't get to play with that nearly often enough these days. So
Yeah, because
that
I
might be a
know.
better answer than what I want to make actually in the long run.
Because I know recently there's been a surge in games, if that makes sense. So
Yes,
stuff
friend
like
slot,
Among
which I don't like the
Us.
name.
What was it? What did you say?
Friend slop. I hate the name. I hate the genre name people have called it. I don't think
Oh
it's a good
yeah.
name at all. But I find it a better description than a lot of other things that people have come up with.
Mm.
The games that are primarily driven by the social interaction with other players is the long way of saying something that needs a snappier title. Um, and I think we need to be careful of that just becoming not. It's already got a derivative aspect to it. Like a lot of the games that are doing it are all basing themselves off of the thing that came before it and sort of trying to leapfrog, which is not exactly an uncommon thing in game development history. That's where we got shooters from as a whole, realistically. Like they were Doom likes before they were first person shooters. Um, but that is a space that really intrigues me that is relatively inaccessible to most developers these days, unless they have an established structure or knowledge, which is why something like Peak, which is really, really good take on this kind of structure, that's come from two different studios with a bunch of different experiences able to pair together to make something cool. Even if it was just a small jam game to start with, it still took experience to get there. And I'd love to see more ways to develop into that space.
Because
But like even sorry, go ahead.
Wasn't Peak a good Godot game?
I don't remember. I thought it was Unity personally, but I usually think everything's Unity because I don't tend to catch it.
Let's have a look. No, let's have a look. Peak. It could be game. No, yeah, it's Unity. I was wrong. It's Unity used.
I would I would be surprised if it had been Godot, just because a lot of what Unity is good for is become really instant, fast platform to make something new, and it
Mm.
was very rapidly developed. Whereas my understanding is that Godot still takes a little bit of finagling to get it to behave the way you want it to,
Yeah, trust
and
me.
that's not. It's such an early development engine still. It's going to be that way for a while, but and it's also very tailored to programmers. Like, don't get me wrong. Like Unity still requires some code knowledge if you want to get the most out of it, but you don't need it the way that you need code for Godot.
Yeah, but the thing is, schools are now teaching coding.
Yes, which is really interesting too. I'm really curious to see how that goes, what that's going to do to the future of development as a whole.
Because now kids are being taught code, it means it opens up a lot more possibilities. Because let's face it, if we were taught code when we were kids, we would be making games would have been so much easier because you
Oh, wait, yeah, yeah.
you this is the one thing which does get to me when people build games and you have the disconnect.
Mhm.
How some designers won't talk to animators, the designers will change a piece of the environment, not tell the animators, especially when it's a cutscene. This happened in my
Mhm.
final year in the Journeyman.
Mhm. Mhm.
They gave us the environment. I animated it all, so you just see, let's say, the bunny jump off the bed, blah blah blah, run. We were never told that floorboards got implemented until we saw it. And
So everything is completely inside the
it's
floorboard.
like you just see the bear jump off the bed and he's running halfway through the floor. There was
Yeah. No.
zero there was zero attempt to move those floorboards down to mitigate
Yeah.
the clipping.
I feel like so that learning. I don't know how specific this is to Teesside Uni. I think I know there's a lot of things that they do specifically structurally that I think a bunch of other places that teach game dev also do. But I think one of the most important things that we learned from Journeyman was someone's going to make something else you've done not work, and you're going to need to figure out how to make that
Oh yeah.
change, fix that. The learning process there is more like you're not supposed to succeed almost to a certain degree. You're supposed to figure out why you're not going to get through this process. I don't know how intentional that is, but that certainly feels like what I learned from that experience.
I also
And
think it.
that made the final year project of the third year a lot more like, oh, okay, I know we're going to hit these pitfalls. Let's start to prepare for it and get ahead of it.
Yeah, I also think it changed between my year and your year. Because in your year,
It did.
did you have a animator inside your team all the time?
I don't remember actually. We might have done, or we might not have done. I genuinely, it's been almost 15
Because
years. I don't.
yeah, because I know in my year we were all the animators were its own unit, and we had
They were kind of like almost an animation house, right? I vaguely remember because the partner I started the company with was on that year, did do that Journeyman project, so I did get to hear more about it.
who was that?
And their name is different now than you may know their name as, and I don't know if I want to say it yet.
What's the surname?
Keeble.
Can you just send me the can you send me the LinkedIn address, the LinkedIn name?
Yeah, so that can happen. I'll go grab that for you. But yeah, like it's that whole structure has been let's see how we can do sort of simulation of development studios at a very, very low level.
Because I know
And
me.
it,
Sorry.
no, I was just gonna say it sort of it teaches you the bad things, I think, more than it teaches you the successes and the good things. And that's fine, but also I don't understand whether they're marketing it as such or whether they're still using it as sort of this big experience that you will learn so much from because of how great it will be and how structured it is. I think that tends to not be the case.
Because I know with me and uh me and Ben came to and came to a point at one point from who I'm not sure if he still works there. Ben Alling.
No idea.
Allings. But yeah, can you just drop me their name? Because I think because
Yeah, I'm just
if they
popping
were
it
in my
into our
same
chat.
year, it's like
Pretty sure anyway, yeah.
that's going on here.
think Ben, if I'm right, Ben wound up at Clink, and I think still is for however much longer that he lasts.
Hmm. Oh yeah, no, they weren't my year. Uh,
Really? Oh,
no,
okay. Well, they were definitely the year after me.
I was 2012. I joined 2012, did the foundation
Mhm.
year, then joined 2013, the year you.
Oh, of course, there's that interesting distinction, of course.
Because
Yeah.
I got. I w-
I mean,
I.
some people take a year out and do a year in industry as well on top of that, so you can wind up
Mhm.
having a 5 year experience if you, in certain cases.
Yeah,
It's really hard
because
to keep it all aligned.
I don't think I got um enough points to get
Ah, I see. Yeah.
into the full course, so this might sound strange. I aimed for the foundation because I knew the foundation had a lot less, and it was.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, it was so easy. You just turned up and congrats.
yeah, as far as I can tell, it wasn't the most in depth. But I mean, that's kind of the point, I guess. It's supposed to be very basic stuff. I just wonder if it needs a whole year.
It didn't. You could have done the entire course in 6 months, in
Yeah.
4 months, but it's one of those where it's. This might sound strange. It's a for me. It felt like congrats. If you really want to do it, we'll short you list you, but you got to pay this much to get in. Also, the fact that the years when I was there, we were guinea pigs.
Yeah, so that was a constant for me during my education as well, actually. Like all the way from secondary school through to university, we were always the test case. We were always the
Mm.
test subject for something. And I don't know if that's just a universal truth in education, that they're always trying to evolve things and do something different, but it my entire time in education, I felt like I was always a guinea pig for something, and
Oh,
it's certainly never helped my general confidence going through education.
yeah. Oh,
Um,
yes. By the way, you're the guinea pig for this. It's like,
yeah, great. Again, yeah, yeah. So technically, with my secondary school degrees, I got an F in my ICT classes because of how badly that system went and how badly that process went. By the time I got that result, I was halfway through a computing course at my college. So I was like clearly capable, and that F meant nothing. So it's just like sometimes testing this stuff just doesn't work, and that's a reality of games as well. Sometimes you do a test on some gameplay mechanic you think is going to be great, and it just falls flat. So
mm,
I can empathize with it. But when it comes to education, it feels difficult to justify, especially when that can
yeah.
have such a lasting effect on your, well, future.
I know
So,
one of the courses got completely changed because of my year. Um, we this was like a pre-journeyman project.
mm.
We had to work with designers. Animators were given 3D models, and we had to create a 2D game. What do you think happened?
So many things will have gone wrong.
So, what did all the animators do? We created we created run, jump, def, that, and then
Yeah.
rendered it from the side, then handed it over to the animators, the dev team.
Yeah.
We did it. That course for us took us less than 24 hours, and it was a
Hmm.
3 month course because
I was gonna say that doesn't sound like it's a long process.
it was meant to run for 3 months. The year after, they changed it, and the year after us hated us for it because they had to hand draw everything.
Oh, that's not a good solution because that's such a different hand drawing is such a different skill set from computer animation structures.
Yep. The thing is, it's
Ugh.
just like how did the uni not click that the animators were just going to use the 3D models and 3D animate as much as we could to
Yeah,
side
I'm
render?
not sure the thought process there at all, but like I find that's a common case when it comes to the university experience.
Yeah, especially
Again, it's all experimental because no one really knows exactly what needs to happen, and the needs of the course change on a year-to-year basis
Mm.
because the industry around it changes faster than that. So it's hard to
Oh,
keep up.
when we finish
Yeah.
the interview, I've got a funny story to deal with one of the lecturers there. But
Mhm.
I think I'm going to finish it up here because it's an hour and 40, which I'm not gonna lie, I said these with like 42-minute episodes. Every single one's run into about an hour and a half. So,
We
thank you
should give
everyone who
some
came by.
thought about
Don't forget to check out Chloe's LinkedIn. She's looking for work, so if you've got any work going, you know who to go to. Um, I am really
I do
looking forward to
design.
see. I am really looking forward to seeing how your PNG tuber mechanic goes, because that's
Mhm.
and yeah. Uh,
I mean, if you want to check it out, it will be actually. I know today is not going to be a good time for a bunch of other people, but basically, at least 3 times a week, we're trying. The person who I'm building it for is at least trying to stream, show it off, and also show off really cool mini painting for the most part, and occasionally gaming, depending on the day. So
okay,
go and check out Beholder on Twitch.
yeah,
I'll send you a link for that too.
yes. Drop me a link and I'll put it on the end card. But yes, thank you everyone who came by. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Uh, I do have some more live streams coming up where I am building a game on my phone, which is very going to be very interesting, especially with me trying to use mobile Godot. It is
Mhm.
not exactly forgiving. But yes, anyway, thank you everyone who came by. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.